So in chapter 9 of John's Gospel, and we have this account of a blind man that was walking along, and he saw Jesus was walking along and he saw a blind man. And his followers said, whose sin caused this man to be blind? Was it his own sin or was it his parents' sin? Jesus said, it is not this man's sin or the parents that made him blind. This man was born blind so that God's power could be shown in him. It's a weird one, this one. So this, if you look away from the blind man and Jesus, and you look away from the earth and you look further and further away, existence comes into this earth, or existence itself comes, because the Creator allows it. The Creator allows us to be born. And Jesus is saying, sin has nothing to do with this. This man was created in this way for the glorification of God, for the glory of God on this day, and to show the glory of God in this day, this time. Again, Jesus knows exactly who he's going to meet, who he's going to bump into, what acts he's going to do. And in this particular case, he was going to heal a blind man. And Jesus did heal the blind man. And Jesus says it has nothing to do with sin. It's nothing to do with the parents. It's nothing to do with the man. This is to do with the glorification of God. Now, some people might say, well, are you saying that God created a man born blind then? Just so he could show a miracle? Just so that on this day it would be a miracle? Well, it could be. But on the other hand, Jesus may be saying, it's got nothing to do with sin. It's nothing to do with the parents. It's nothing to do with the man. This is to do with the glorification of God. The man is blind, and I'm going to heal him. And this, at this precise moment, is the glorification of God. So Jesus heals this man by putting mud on his eyes and telling him to go to a pool and wash his eyes, and this man begins to see. Well, of course, it gets back to the Pharisees and the priests. How did you get your sight? The man named Jesus made some mud, put it on my eyes, told me to go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed, and then I could see. Who is the man? Where is the man? I don't know, he said. Then the people with the Pharisees, they were crowding around this blind man. How did you get your sight? He put mud on my eyes, and now I see. So some of the Pharisees were saying, this man does not keep the Sabbath. He's not from God. What do you say about him, since it was your eyes that he opened? The man said, he's a prophet. Now the Pharisees began to murmur, he was never blind. They knew he was blind, but they began to murmur, he wasn't blind. He wasn't blind. He's making it up. So they sent for the man's parents, and they asked him, is your son, who you say was born blind, so how does he now see? And the parents says, we know that he is our son, and we know he was born blind, but we don't know how he can now see. We don't know who opened his eyes. Ask him. He's old enough to speak for himself. And the parents didn't want to get involved with the Pharisees because the Pharisees had this authority and hold over people. And they said anybody getting mixed up with Jesus, anybody starting to talk about Jesus, they wouldn't be able to come to the temple, they would be thrown out of the religious hierarchy, praise and worship, and God wouldn't want to know them. So they didn't want to say anything. So they called the man who had been blind and they said, you should give God the glory. He's the one who healed you. This man is a sinner. And he says, I don't know. I don't know if he's a sinner. All I know is I was blind and now I see. Well, what did he do to you? And he says, look, I've told you, he says. You're not listening. Do you want to hear it again? Do you want to be his followers? Well, that kind of talk would have really got the gripe with the Pharisees. So they insulted him. You are a follower, but we are followers of Moses. We know God spoke to Moses. We don't even know where this man comes from. Funny, isn't it? I mean, one minute they're saying we know where he comes from and we know his parents. Now they're saying they don't even know where he comes from. The man answered, it's a very strange thing. You don't know where he comes from. And yet he opened my eyes. We all know God doesn't listen to sinners. But he does listen to people who worship. And he listens to people who obey him. Nobody has ever heard of anyone giving sight to a man born blind. If this man were not from God, he couldn't have done it. They answered, you were born full of sin. And you have the audacity to try and teach us. And they threw him out. When Jesus heard that they'd thrown him out, he went to find him and he said, do you believe in the Son of Man? And the man says, who is this man? Who is the Son of Man, sir, that I can believe in him? And Jesus said, you have seen him. The Son of the Man is the one who is talking to you. And he said, Lord, I believe. And the man was worshipping Jesus. I came into this world, said Jesus, so that the world could be judged. I came so that the blind would see, and that those who see will become blind. Some of the Pharisees who were nearby heard Jesus saying this, and they said to him, are we blind too? Jesus said, if you were blind, you wouldn't be guilty of sin. But since you keep saying you see, your guilt stays with you. I tell you the truth. Oh, sorry, next one. So, here we have the priestly class once again not recognizing a healing. A man has been healed of blindness. And instead of saying, well, how wonderful this is, how beautiful this is, they are so annoyed that one, he again healed on the Sabbath, and two, it's this healing part that gripes them because they can't do it. They can't do it. This is the important thing here. Jesus says he came into the world to judge. He came into the world to put things right. To set things right. They will do anything for an argument, the Pharisees. They hate Jesus. They want to destroy Jesus. So anything that comes up now about Jesus, they're there and they want to know what's going on. The spies are there. So they get the parents. You know, is this your son? Parents don't want to say anything about it. They're too scared to say anything about it. They says, ask him, he's old enough. So they asked the man there, and the man that was blind, who was healed, he started to get agitated by the Pharisees, and he tells them straight, look, nobody could do this if they wasn't from God. Nobody could heal a man that is blind. You've seen it, and you know me. You've seen me begging. You've seen me in the streets suffering. You know who I am. But I can see now. And then Jesus says that he is the light of the world. He is the light. And he says that he came so that those who cannot see will see. But those who say they can see will become blind. And what it means is that, because this really annoyed the Pharisees. Some of them heard it, they overheard him, and they said, are we the blind you are talking about? Are we blind? Well, yes, they are blind, because they are not recognising what's going on. They're not recognising what Jesus has done. So those who cannot see, those who do not have the understanding, Jesus has come to put it right, so that you will see and you will know. And I'm here for you, and I'm here for you. These Pharisees have stopped you understanding the truth. I'm here. I am the Word, I am the light, and I'm going to give you the truth, so that you and you and you and you and you and you will get the truth. And you will know the Father. But the Pharisees, the priestly class, you who think you know it all, you'll just become more blind, and you will be blocked out. Because you are not of the truth. So it's a complete reversal. It's a complete reversal. The ones who you should be getting the knowledge from aren't giving you the knowledge. This was a similar thing to with the Catholic Church, and they had a Bible that was in Latin. And so the people of the lands who worked the lands, the people like you and me, we didn't know Latin, but they did. The Roman papacy knew it. So they kept it in Latin and they wouldn't put it into other languages. And so whatever they said was the truth. And the people had to accept it because they didn't know. They just thought, this is from the Bible, so it must be true. And it wasn't until the Reformation period that we started getting new Bibles, and then the word started to filter in. And people says, well, the Roman Church said it was this, but this Bible says it's this. Because this is in my own language and I see it now. And what the Roman Church was doing was exactly the same as what the Pharisees were doing. They were keeping the people out. Like, they scared the mom and dad, the mother and father of this blind man who had been healed, so much that they didn't want to, they were so petrified to say, yeah, he's been healed, my son has been healed. They stifle and they do everything to ruin a happy event. It was a happy event, and they were ruining it. They were bringing the darkness to it. I said to you that wherever Jesus walks, north, south, east, west, he changes things for the better. He transforms things to the better. He brings the truth. He gets rid of the lies. And he sees people suffering, so he heals them and he helps them. And he's changing the darkness to the light. But the Pharisees, the priestly class, quickly emerge on the scene and just destroy the beautiful event, destroy the presence of Jesus and what he had done, destroy a man who was suffering with blindness, becoming unable to see. And the Pharisees, if you listen to them, they say, it's because of your sin that you were blind. Your sin. Yeah, you're a sinner. But at the very, very beginning of this chapter, when the disciples said to Jesus, why is this man blind, Lord? Was it his mum and dad? Or was it the man's sin? And Jesus takes that away straight away. It's nothing to do with the sin of mother and father. It's nothing to do with the sin of this man, that he is blind. But it is the glory of God. And the glory of God is seen in the healing of this man. Jesus said he comes to bring the light so that those who are blind, those who are suffering, those who can't see, will be able to see. But those who claim that they already see and they don't want to listen to the truth and they don't want to recognize just who exactly is there, they will be blind and more dark. What a horrible place to be. That you cannot see a healing. That you cannot see the work of God. That it is obviously from God that this person is healed. And they refuse to give the Creator the credit. They refuse to give the Creator the praise. As a priestly class, that should have been the first thing they would have done. And they would have been there with the man. You can see, you can see. You can see. Who did this? You can see. We want to talk to him. We want to hear him. No. Who did this? You're a sinner, transgressor. We know this man Jesus is a sinner. That's all they come up with. Their voice is the voice of untruth and lies and darkness. And all they want to do to you as a priestly class is to destroy you and to break you and to make you afraid, to scare you, to frighten you, to make God a taskmaster, somebody who just wants to pick on you. They don't want to tell you about God's love. In fact, you never hear a Pharisee in the narratives ever talking about love or light or even the Creator. They'll talk about Abraham, they'll talk about Moses, but they won't talk about the Creator. And Jesus is right in their face and he's talking about the Creator, and he's manifesting the works of the kingdom. He's manifesting the works of love, peace, joy, happiness, light, truth. There's more into this chapter, and there's more in these verses. But it's something to reflect upon, this blind man. And we need to think about why the Pharisees are so angry that a blind man was healed of his blindness. And we need to think about why Jesus says it's nothing to do with sin. It's not the sin of the parents, it's not the sin of the man. And we need to think about Jesus is saying that those who cannot see will be able to see, and those who claim they can see will become blind. Are we the ones who cannot see? So we want Jesus. We want to have the light. Or are we like the Pharisees, where we just grumble and moan, and we don't see a good situation, and we don't want to praise a good situation. We don't want to go near a good situation. We just are in our own darkness. Or are we? Are we humble enough to realise that we are in need of the light? And Jesus says, I came to judge. In other words, I come to judge and to bring the truth. That's the important thing. So, I want to understand this. It's good to understand this. Don't you think?